Have you ever found yourself stuck in a situation where someone meticulously weaves a web of deception over weeks, leading you to inadvertently damage your own relationship? If not, consider yourself lucky. Unfortunately, I've experienced this, and it almost destroyed everything I shared with the person I loved. My name is Rose. I'm 26 years old, and I want to share a story that might make you think twice before making light of someone without considering the impact. While this is partly an outlet for me to vent, I'd also genuinely appreciate any advice you might have. I've been in a long-term relationship with my boyfriend, Jack, who is also 26. We'd been together for 5 years. We first met on Tinder, only to discover that we attended the same college. From that moment, we instantly connected. I genuinely believed Jack was my soulmate, the person I'd spend the rest of my life with. He was always kind, attentive, and often prioritized my needs above his own. To me, Jack seemed perfect, but one seemingly small moment set everything on a different path. During a light-hearted exchange, I jokingly called him weak. What I didn't realize was that this offhand remark would set off a series of events involving resentment and dishonesty that nearly destroyed the bond we had built over the years. You might wonder why I would say something like that. Honestly, it was meant to be playful. Jack had always been incredibly considerate and devoted to me. Among our friends, he had earned a reputation for being a bit soft-hearted. They often teased him about being a pushover, and he would laugh along without showing any signs of being upset. Over time, I guess I started to take his love and selflessness for granted. Jack had always been a constant in my life, offering unwavering support no matter the circumstances. But when you grow too comfortable in a relationship, it's easy to assume things will stay the same forever. Unfortunately, that's not how life works. It all began like any other day. Jack and I were joking around and having fun. I don't remember the exact details, but during our playful banter, I made a thoughtless comment about leaving him for someone else. It was meant as a joke, another playful jab. At first, Jack laughed it off, but then I took it further. I called him weak and teased him about being too soft, warning him to be careful. What I thought was harmless fun had clearly hit a nerve. Jack didn't laugh this time. Instead, he went quiet. The air grew tense, and I knew something had shifted. Looking back, I can see how hurtful my words were. Jack had always gone above and beyond to show his love for me, in both big and small ways. To dismiss all of that with a joke about him being weak was deeply unfair. At that moment, I didn't fully understand the impact, but it was a wake-up call for both of us. After that day, things started to change. Jack's behavior became noticeably different. He wasn't as caring, attentive, or affectionate as before. This was a stark contrast to the Jack I knew, the one who always checked in on me throughout the day, asked about my well-being, and made sure I felt safe wherever I went. At first, I told myself it might just be stress or a temporary phase, but deep down I knew better. I missed the sense of security and love he used to provide, and without it, I felt vulnerable. I couldn't stop wondering if my teasing had caused this change. Had my words created a rift between us that I couldn't mend? Living together, we had always maintained a balance in our routines. Jack handled most of the household responsibilities. Despite earning more than I did, he genuinely enjoyed cooking and cleaning, and I had grown accustomed to relying on him for these things. But now, the dynamic we once had seemed to be unraveling. After that conversation, everything took a turn. Jack stopped cooking as much, and the dishes began to stack up in the sink. He no longer took the initiative to tidy up, and the small gestures of care that used to bring us closer began to disappear. At first, I told myself he was probably just busy or distracted, but as days turned into weeks, it became clear this was more than a temporary change. Something between us had shifted. I tried to step in and take on more responsibilities, but it didn't feel the same. I missed the little things he used to do, preparing dinner or tidying the apartment just to make me smile. It felt like a part of our connection was slowly unraveling, and with it, the closeness we once shared. Initially, I experienced an odd sense of freedom. Jack wasn't checking in as much, and for a while, it felt refreshing not to have to update him on every part of my day. I enjoyed the space to focus on myself, reconnect with friends, and make spontaneous plans without feeling guilty or tied down. But as time passed, I began to see the downside of this newfound independence. What once felt liberating started to feel empty. The lack of communication between us began to resemble indifference. I missed the thoughtful ways Jack used to show he cared, the gestures that made me feel loved. What had once felt like a break now felt like a void in our relationship. The changes didn't stop there. Jack's approach to finances shifted as well. He had always been generous and took care of most of our financial needs without hesitation. But now, he was more cautious. I found myself in the unfamiliar position of having to ask for money, something I'd never needed to do before. This new dynamic only added to the growing chasm between us. As the distance between us widened, I felt increasingly helpless. I didn't know how to regain what we had, or even if it could be fixed. In my frustration and loneliness, I began looking for validation elsewhere. What started as harmless conversations or playful flirting at social events or online became a way to escape the emotional void I felt in my relationship. I found myself drawn to these moments, seeking out the attention and compliments I received. They seemed to temporarily fill the emptiness I hadn't fully realized was growing inside me, a sense of being overlooked in my own relationship. You might wonder why I didn't simply talk to Jack about how I was feeling. The truth is, I tried. But every time I brought up my concerns, Jack would brush them off or make me feel like I was overreacting. Sometimes, he even made me question my own perspective, leaving me feeling invalidated and misunderstood. This only deepened the divide between us and pushed me further towards seeking solace outside our relationship. As time went on, no matter how much effort I put into reconnecting, it felt like I was hitting a wall. The loneliness and frustration grew unbearable. Eventually, I made a choice that I deeply regret. What began as innocent flirting crossed a line, and I cheated on Jack. It was a mistake, a terrible one-time mistake, and I knew it was wrong the moment it happened. The guilt consumed me, but I couldn't bring myself to tell Jack. The thought of seeing the pain on his face was more than I could bear, so I kept it a secret. The true extent of how far we had drifted apart hit me when I learned that Jack had received a major promotion and bought a house, all without telling me. The way I found out made it hurt even more. A casual conversation with mutual friends revealed the news, and I was blindsided. It wasn't just the surprise of the promotion or the house. It was a realization that Jack hadn't even thought to share these milestones with me. Learning that Jack had made such a monumental decision, buying a house, without including me as partner, felt like a betrayal. We had always dreamed of owning a home together, and discovering that he had taken the step on his own broke something inside me. It was as if our shared plans and dreams no longer mattered. Desperate to salvage what was left of our relationship, I decided to confront him. I thought maybe this conversation could be a turning point, a chance to address everything that had gone wrong between us. But instead of resolution, it became the moment I realized just how fractured we were. Jack confessed that he knew about my affair. The fury and hurt in his eyes as he spoke were unbearable. His words cut deep, and when he stormed out, I was left standing there, feeling utterly shattered. Now I find myself at a crossroads. It feels like the relationship I once cherished is already gone. I know I made a terrible mistake, but it stemmed from feeling neglected, unappreciated, and unseen. Jack wasn't perfect, but he was a good partner, and I never wanted him to stop caring or trying for us. I'm reaching out now in hopes of finding guidance. Is there any way to repair what's left of our relationship? Can I ever earn Jack's forgiveness? Friends have suggested couples therapy and individual counseling, and I've been seriously considering both. I've come to realize that I need to take responsibility for my actions and work on myself. One of the issues I recognize now is how much I depended on Jack financially. He earned more than me, and over time, I grew too comfortable relying on him. I regret not managing things better and know I need to take steps toward becoming more independent and financially stable. Online, people have been quick to judge. They call me selfish and entitled, painting me as the villain in a story they only know fragments of. They assume Jack will leave me, that I'll regret everything when it's too late. But relationships are far more complex than a few posts can convey. Life isn't black and white, and no one can truly understand the nuances of what we've been through together. Right now, though, it feels like everything is falling apart. The bills keep piling up, and every time I check my bank account, I'm reminded of how much I've lost. The stable life I once had with Jack feels like a distant memory, slipping further and further away. Mentally, I'm struggling to keep going. I tell myself things will get better, but it's hard to hold on to hope when it feels like everything is crumbling. The guilt over my actions follows me everywhere. Whenever I see updates about Jack moving forward with his life, it's like the pain resurfaces all over again. He seems to be building a new life, one that doesn't include me, and I can't help but wonder if I'll ever have the chance to move forward too. Will I ever feel whole again, or am I destined to remain trapped in this cycle of regret? It feels like I'm losing everything, Jack, the future we plan, and even my own sense of self. I wanted to believe I could rebuild, but now it seems like everything is slipping through my fingers. Jack is moving on, building a new life, and finding happiness elsewhere, while I'm here, barely holding on to what's left of myself.